Hey, Luminary, I have a little bit of tough love for you in the cosmos coming up this week and in October. So listen ahead as we uncover everything about this upcoming full moon in Aries and then looking ahead at October with eclipse season. Welcome to Star Powered Astrology for Changemakers. I'm Leslie Tagorda, your guide, a Hawaii born Filipino Jewish astrologer who loves navigating visionaries like you through the spiritual journey of your work so that you can be inspired to lead by your chart and become the luminary leader you were born to be. Hey, Luminary, it's Leslie, and I have an episode. We're going to be covering today the full moon in Aries that's happening on September 29th. So, this is dropping pretty late. So, this is going to be happening in just a few hours. And then we'll be looking at the month ahead, October ahead in the stars, with our eclipse season. So, I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It is going to be a time of some deep letting go. And on our let go journey, we're going to be doing some deep excavation. And this is exactly what we need to put us into that kind of higher purpose, highest path, all of those things that eclipse season is going to be taking us through in October. Now, as I was writing, the write-ups for the Aries full moon and kind of looking up ahead, I just kind of felt like my blood boiling. So many things in the world, in my family and life, and just like all these in work, all these things that are just like really annoying me. And so I apologize if my writing is coming off a little less than, like, I try to keep it like, nice and soft and gentle. I don't feel like this month has that gentleness in there. Like, we're going to be asked to do some like pretty heavy cleanup, and we absolutely need to do this. Now, a couple of reasons why my blood might be a little bit more elevated than normal. I was looking at my natal chart, and I have my Mars at where's my Mars? It's in Taurus. 23 degrees of Taurus. And for quite the while, transiting Uranus has been sitting on top of my Mars, and like I just can't keep my mouth shut. Like anytime like there's something out of injustice, like I'm just like, wow. I can't deal. And then I looked at my chart again today, and I noticed that not only do I have Uranus transiting my Mars, well, hello, my Uranus is in Libra, and transiting Mars is conjunct my Uranus. So, what does that mean when you're having this like double trigger of like this Uranus Mars? It means like explosive. So, I'm trying to like honor my temper and know that when we are expressing our anger, when we are we are really expressing our boundaries and when they have been crossed and the consequences that happen. So I'm honoring my own anger. I hope that you can honor your own anger and use it in a constructive way, like I am going to try to do today. Well, that was one of the reasons why I was angry, right? But another part of why I'm just angry is like I've been following the news on Lahaina. I've been seeing how so many like native Hawaiian people that have been in places of power, like with the water department and like land governance, are really being gaslit right now by the governor, by land developers, by corporations. And it's just like, when are these things going to stop happening? Like I was talking to one of my clients who works in a global nonprofit. She's doing a lot of work and collaborating with some of the worst offenders in energy. And she shares with me some of these stories that she has to have diplomacy and keep the peace. And we were talking about just kind of larger ideas and ideals about like, how do we get out of our global predicament? How do we get out of so much carbon in our atmosphere that our planet is warming up almost to the place of like no return? How do we create sustainable energy without mining more lithium from lithium deposits and destroying more earth and ruining more water? How do we do all of these things, right? All of these things are like making my blood boil. But one of the things that we were talking about, I was like, and one part of me says, like, how are we going to do this? Because there's not one single corporation or one single country that's going to say, hey, we're going to stop, because it's going to be too much pain. I was reading this quote on Instagram, and I sent it to her because there was this beautiful quote on Instagram that said, pain will travel through families until someone is brave enough to feel it. Okay, so we can think of that in our communities, in our closest families, our families of origin, how we like perpetuate these kind of family traumas or family pains until we have these cycle breakers. And I'm going on all these tangents, but just stay with me. If you have a Uranus opposite Chiron, you, my friend, are a cycle breaker. But that's another podcast that I'll be talking about. But this idea of pain will travel through families until someone is brave enough to feel it. Someone is brave enough to talk about it. Someone is brave enough to bring it up and out from the shadows, whether or not our family of origin can receive it, or we talk to close friends, or we talk to a therapist. Only when we can feel it and move through it will we be able to break that cycle. Now, the places that we've got into as a as a humanity as a resident of planet Earth has come from all of these corporations, um, that it all these corporations that are only looking at the bottom line. They're not looking at conservation, they're not looking at water, they're not looking at protecting human rights, environmental rights, all of those things. And so our need for energy and products and just our consumerist tendencies, we're going to perpetually feed into this cycle. And so I know I promise I'm getting somewhere. So when I was talking to my friend who has the power and the access to make some of these changes, I was like, how are you going to convince these municipalities, these governments, these corporations, these organizations that we're going to have to take a hit. We're going to have to lessen profits. We might even need to lose some profits and make things better, not because of what's in it for us, but what can we give to the planet? Because this pain will travel through humanity until we kill our Mother Earth, until someone, corporations, governments, are brave enough to feel it and say, this is the end. We choose a different way that is not only based on profits. So the reason why I bring this up, because it's like really, I've been thinking about this so much lately. It's been getting me so mad. And I've just been thinking, like, what can we do on an individual basis? There's a lot of things that we can do on an individual basis. We can make better choices with where we spend our money, where we bank with, where we invest our retirement funds with, where we buy our products and the things we need. And like, simply like, how many things do we need? Like this, I'm talking to myself too, because I really recognize my Amazon habit. And it's like, oh, Leslie, what are you doing? But on an even more personal level, what drives us to over consume? What drives us to like have to buy that next trendy thing? What drives us to like have to buy all of these things? A lot of that comes from this place of unworthiness. Where does that unworthiness come? Maybe stories from society that maybe you're a woman or you're a person of color, you're not worthy. Or maybe it comes from our family that you're born a girl, you're not worthy unless you're beautiful. Or maybe it comes from our culture, right? And so as we deepen this down, we can see how these kinds of ideas of worthiness, not enoughness, are at all of these different levels, from our global society to our communities to our families and us individually. And it's in this full moon that's coming up tomorrow and the month of October that we are going to really be able to come face to face with where we don't feel enough, where we constantly are operating in the fear modes of fight, flight, fawn. I know there's more freeze I think there's even one more that I forgot we were discussing earlier, but we are going to come face to face with all of these things, that these deep patterns of fear that are within us. We're going to excavate them so that we can finally clear our hands, shake it out, shake our energies, and move to a new path, because we are sitting with our pain, brave enough to feel it and brave enough to move through it. So, my friends, let's first talk about this full moon that's happening, and then we will talk about what's coming up for us in October. Full moon in Aries happens on September 29th at 2:57 a.m. Pacific, 5:57 a.m. Eastern. It is an Aries full moon, and it is our full moon, our last full moon before our eclipse season. This full moon in Aries of 6 degrees is happening tomorrow in those wee morning hours, and it is your reality check to see if you've kept all the promises you've set up for yourself 6 months ago at that Aries solar eclipse in April. This Aries full moon, of course, ruled by Mars, is deeply intertwined with the upcoming Libra solar eclipse in 2 weeks. At the time of the full moon, Mars will be at the exact degree of the solar eclipse in 2 weeks, which is Libra of 21 degrees. Now, with Mars as the director of action, it's time to cut back all the ways you keep stuck in the fear of people pleasing, hiding, and procrastination that holds you back from your true Aries leadership and identity. This powerful full moon, illuminated by the Libra sun, highlights how you've become or haven't yet become in the last 6 months, as well as what remains to be cut loose. Why are you still hiding from your leadership, from your true identity, from your way of being, from your true Libra connections? Now, 6 months ago, with that Aries solar eclipse, you promised to build your capacity to jump into the unknown, because leadership is all about the unknown and taking risks. To build your capacity is to strengthen your inner trust muscle. So, at this tipping point of tomorrow's potent Aries full moon, you have a choice. Did you or didn't you do what you said you were going to do 6 months ago? If you didn't, you get this last chance before the eclipse season in 2 weeks to let go of all that is holding you down. If you've been doing the work, keep on going, my friend. Lessen the gas of hustle and push, but keep your momentum. Your time is coming. Now, Venus, the ruler of Libra, is still in her shadow zone this Aries full moon and squaring off with Uranus, giving you that extra independence and free spirited feels. Your traditional relationships need to break open, and the relationships that have passed their prime have to be let go, not simply ghosted. It's time to say goodbye to those old bonds and create space for a new way of connecting. So here's your reality check. Be honest with yourself. You are your worst enemy. If you keep lying to yourself and living in fear and distrust, I know you've been hurt before. We all have. But if you keep living this way, you can't be strong. You can't be worthy. Wherever you are on your leadership journey, it's time to lighten your load. This really is a now or never time. Eclipse energy is soon upon us, ready to quantum leap you, but she can only fly if you've let go of your baggage. Let go of that dead weight you've been carrying around that keeps you hiding. Finish up what you need to in order to be seen as the luminary leader you are born to be this full moon. So let's take a look at some of the reflections that you need to do. I love to do full moon reflections based, of course, on polarities, because the sun is sitting across the moon in opposing signs. So if you're an Aries or a Libra, I want you to let go of past mistakes, taking the lead, or being in leadership. Thank and recognize the lessons you've learned. Forgive yourself. Forgive your partners. It's time to craft a new story of self-directed leadership. For Taurus and Scorpio, let go of your rigid routines and systems. Yes, your dedication and commitment has got you this far, but your wellness and overall health will take you further. Take care of your body. Be embodied and the trustworthy leader you are born to be. For Gemini and Sagittarius, let go of taking things so seriously. Pleasure and play make you a wholehearted leader. Forgive yourself for taking things so hard or personally. Being vulnerable and showing off your soft side makes you a more approachable leader. For Capricorn and Cancer, let go of your resentments that you may have in your family life or your professional life with those that feel like family. The dynamics here have put too much expectations on how you are meant to take the lead. Forgive yourself and forge your own way as you now see yourself as an authority and expert, regardless of what others say. For those Leo and Aquarius, let go of past snafus in what you have said or philosophized that may have backfired for you in leadership. Thank and recognize the lessons of those communication missteps. Forgive yourself. Apologize to others. The ability to forgive makes you an authentic leader. And lastly, for my Virgo Pisces people, let go of your past mistakes in what you have valued or how you thought you were adding value. Thank and recognize the lessons of worthiness you have learned. Forgive yourself for you haven't wasted or squandered. You now see those shadows as great investments in your worthiness. All right, my friends, this is a pretty intense full moon. So I want you to just remember that Mars is here to show you the way, all the things that you need to cut loose. Venus is here to give yourself some love and some self compassion. All right, ready to talk about October? Because October, we have a full month. Whew. October's vibe is, and the feels of October are intense, endings that create new beginnings, and intimate trust. Because this month it's another eclipse season with a Libra annular solar eclipse, that's a ring of fire, and a Taurus partial lunar eclipse. Both Libra and Taurus ruled by Venus. Now, Venus brings in the peace, beauty, truth, and attracts what she needs to thrive. But remember, Venus isn't just a peacekeeper. She is also a fierce warrior who will defend her own and grant victory. Yet she can only fight and fly towards her success if she isn't weighed down. In this busy month is a time to be the warrior goddess, to face your fears, to slay your outdated relationships, and to grant victory over limiting beliefs of worthiness. Venus uses her sword like Mars that cuts and separates the old to make space for the new, cuts the chains that weigh and trap us to create liberation. This month, on your awakening journey, you heal the wounds of family enmeshments so you can choose better collaborations in your work. You bring awareness to the wounds of scarcity and worthlessness so you can choose your value. I'm not going to lie, it's not going to be a month where you can rest on your laurels or bury your head in the sand. I hope that in September, when we were looking at the StarCast last September, I always said this is a month of integration. So get your rest and wellness routine set up because we were going to have some heavy lifting. October, it's an active month with eclipse season and all the inner planets, Venus, Mercury, and Mars, full speed ahead, shifting signs and therefore your inner energetic alignment. You're going to sweat, you're going to dig, you're going to excavate, and you're going to trust. And in return for all the space that is now created, you're going to flex your sweet trust of success, truth, and empowerment. You're going to thank October, I promise. Okay, so let's take a look. On October 4th, Mercury is going to be entering Libra after that extended stay in Virgo. Mercury's shift into Libra is going to highlight the importance of connecting with the right people and engaging in dialogue with the right people in your work and business. You're going to be thrilled to foster relationships with those who share your ideals and values. Then Venus finally leaves Leo and enters Virgo on October 8th. While Venus is in Virgo, she encourages discernment in your social interactions and investments, focusing on improving your well being, your evidence based solutions, your systems, and your rhythms. Maybe time to turn to a little bit of AI for some automation. I've been totally loving Notion. If you haven't used and tried Notion yet, I highly recommend it. Then also in that second week of October, pretty busy, we have Mars entering its traditional home sign of Scorpio. While Mars is in Scorpio at home in all its power, this Mars offers inner and outer motivation. Use this energy to challenge your limiting beliefs, to act on your intuitive insights, and to keep on driving on your impactful tasks, especially when it comes to letting go, clearing out the old. So that was October 11th when Mars enters Scorpio. Then 10 days later, on October 21st, Mercury enters Scorpio. Whew. All right, so we have a lot of Scorpio pileup. We got Mars, we got the Sun, we got Mercury. And while Mercury is in Scorpio for the next few weeks, I want you to trust your intuition and its unique language of inner knowing. Harness your spidey sense to superpower your work and business and to navigate all of those red flags. Then as we get into the end of October, we have our full moon partial lunar eclipse in Taurus, where we are going to be really resolving all of our scarcity mindset, releasing our limiting self-beliefs around worthiness, and advocating for your value. We are going to be really moving the energies so that you can shed old patterns and welcome in abundance, especially with all of those Taurian themes. Then also on that same day of that eclipse, Pluto retrograde ends. Whew, right, so we got a lot of Scorpio, we got a lot of Pluto, we got a lot of Mars. Thank goodness we got a lot of Venus. But when Pluto retrograde ends on the October 28th, for a few weeks before and a few weeks after, Pluto is just going to feel like it's drilling down on that 27 degree of Pluto of Capricorn mark. So if you have anything in late degrees of cardinal signs, Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, between that kind of like 24 to 29 degrees, 26 to 29 degrees of those cardinal signs, know that Pluto is working its magic, it's breaking down and it's transforming. But for those few weeks, it's going to feel really, really, really intense. So for those of you that have been going through these kind of like tower card moments of Pluto over the last year, pay special attention to that time. Okay, so I really hope that through October, even though we have a lot of intense energies coming up, these are those energies that where change happens, when growth happens, because there's so much momentum. I want you to harness that energy of transformation and trust your intuition, empower yourself head on. There's so much room for newfound clarity, newfound trust, and newfound strength in October. So, my friends, let me know what lands for you. Yes, it will be intense, but how can we welcome in and embrace this intensity? Because there are amazing things as we enter that eclipse season and come out the other side. All right, my friends, I will talk to you soon. As a human design projector, my energy shines more brightly because of people like you who share my work. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help build a movement of innovative astrology and leadership and spark the intuitive revolution, please rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, or better yet, share this podcast with your change-making besties. We will all shine brighter together as we create the future we want to see.